So Nicholas, right?
Mm.
As I retweet this here,
Mhm.
we are a comic book podcast, right? And the people want to know, where is Tom Brady going to land?
Uh,
It don't matter because he's out of the playoffs, baby. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of all ages, Dorkshire Universe and Geeks Worldwide Radio proudly presents to you the greatest podcasting team in the world. I'm your friendly neighborhood backcracker, Dr. Joe. He's your fry guy, Nick Friar. Together, we are the TLDR Comic Book Club, baby. Almost fucked that up, Nicholas. How you doing?
You came close, but you did a great job. Like you did, and you know what's funny that Billy and I were doing some stuff at work, and we were talking about like how you do a great job with your intros. It's insane. You like just you do it all off the top of the dome. It blows my mind. But I gotta say that you brought up the Brady stuff, and I can't help but think about the I don't know if it's his now girlfriend or the new, like she's ripping off Giselle's whole thing. Like one guy can't do it all by himself. And it's just like, what is wrong with people? Like I understand supporting your loved ones, but my goodness, it's just
that broad's just along for the ride. That's
I don't blame her.
She's there. She's gonna make a name for herself. She's gonna, her socials will go up. I'm sure Tom is very happy. They're having fun together. And but yeah.
Yes. Let's move on from that, please. And actually, speaking that when you said that we are a comic book podcast, which of course we are. And by the way, for those who are new to the show, make sure you go subscribe on our audio channels. Of course, we love you guys watching us, whether it's on YouTube, Doc's Twitch stream at Backcracker, or over on Twitter. But the audio channels are the only way you're going to find our Friar side chats. Of course, we had one last week with AWA Studios CCO, Chief Creative Officer Axel Alonso. Had a great time talking with him. Always enjoy talking with him. We're going to be talking to him next week and then every other week from here on out, because that's what we do now. But we got to have a much more expansive talk about AWA outside of the Resistance universe. Not that we don't love the Resistance universe, but wanted to get in more detail on some other things too, because there were some great books last year, and got some info about what's coming out this year from some familiar names from AWA and just in the comic book industry in general. First one that comes to mind, of course, is Garth Ennis. Those are the only places that you're going to find those conversations. So it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Geeks Worldwide Radio, SoundCloud. Wherever you listen to podcasts, you can find us there. And if you can't find us, let us know. We'll make sure that we get our stuff over there, TLDR Comic Book Club. And please leave a rating review if you're able to on your platforms. 5 stars only. Otherwise, you're going to learn what Backcracker really stands for. But, Joe, when you brought that up, that we were a comic book podcast, I thought you were actually going to take it to James Gunn in the tweet that he put out earlier today.
That sneaky little mix.
Yeah.
He tried to sneak one past the people. He did this a lot with... I feel like he did this a lot with the first Guardians. Actually, no, he did more so, I think, with the second Guardians movie, right? When the announcement and little like Easter eggs and people trying to sleuth this out. So I did a little digging of my own, with the aid of some other people on the interwebs there.
You did it. You got it done.
Yep, but got it done. And it looks like James Gunn. So that again, that sneaky little bastard. And I say that as a term of endearment. Mm-hmm. You had a picture of him, reading a comic book, cup of coffee, right? Two wonderful things. And friend of the show, fellow DSG member, Fleetwood J Mac of the Mac and Goop program, said, "Oh, it looks like a Spider-Man book." And said, no, I think you said that looks like Soups. And
Soups.
We did a little digging, and he was in fact reading a Superman comic. And in fact, the Superman comic that James Gunn was reading was Grant Morrison's and Frank Quietly's All-Star Superman.
Look at that,
which is an excellent book. And what I want to say is that whether that's his what he plans on, if that's sort of a tease of what we can expect for Soups in his version of the DC universe, I'll say I got a little bit of a beef here.
Oh,
a little bit of a beef. I think he did our boy Henry Cavill dirty, because it's not like the decision to give the reins to James Gunn just was they woke up one morning and said, "Yeah, James Gunn, you're a guy. That's it. Here's the keys to the kingdom and go." It's something that had obviously been in the works for a while.
Sure.
And I think they did him dirty. because the talks between Cavill and DC to bring him back, and the on again, off again. I mean, it was the better part of a year, and then they have him go out and announce it, and then when they officially announced James Gunn taking the reins, he says adios, bye-bye. And I'm not mad about it because he's no longer on The Witcher. I believe those two things are not mutually exclusive, right?
Yes,
like
correct.
His decision to leave Witcher has more to do with the showrunners and what direction the show versus what may have been with DC. But if you're going to go through all that work to bring him into the fold, have him announce it, and then not even a month later say, yeah, he's sorry, he's not our guy. We want to go with the slightly younger Superman. Perhaps I think that was the narrative, coming out early on. That fucking stinks, because I think Henry Cavill is a great Superman. I thought he did a great job. I like Man of Steel more than most. And I think, whether you like the ending or not, whatever, I can debate that and whatever, but I enjoy it more than most. All-Star Superman is not an origin comic, right? Like, you don't need to have a younger Superman to tell that story. You can have Henry Cavill still be Superman and tell that story well, because with James, the difference between Gunn and Snyder, right, is that Snyder's, DC universe was dark and bleak, and it just wasn't very good, right? Gunn is a complete 180 of that, right? And you still could have had, you could still, like, he's gonna have, it's not like he's completely getting rid of everyone and bringing in his own people. He had, Margot Robbie, play Harley Quinn, in his Suicide Squad movie, right? You can have these actors, right? They can be part of the both, they can be separate things. They can be, this is James Gunn universe, but this is our, Superman, and he clearly wants to go in a different direction. I just think they did him really fucking dirty, because it's not like they didn't know that he wasn't gonna, be in their plans. When they were all sitting down together, right, and having this discussion, let's bring Henry back. It's not like they said, like, oh, well, we're gonna hand the reins to James Gunn, but let's not have him sit in any of these fucking meetings, and let's bring him in, right? So
it's been a mess. I mean, there's just no two ways about it. I mean, it's just clear as day. It's been an absolute mess. So, I mean, whoever, like, I don't know if it's whoever it is that deserves the blame for how Henry Cavill was handled. I mean, it's brutal, and it's definitely frustrating. I was kind of over it. Yes, I was like, wow, I cannot believe they did this, and where they brought him back and then they say no. Again, poorly handled, but I was still, like, so frustrated about everything going on with Geralt. I agree. Like, yes, he left Geralt because of creative differences, and that's not a great sign because he's so passionate about that franchise. But I can't help but wonder if he didn't have Superman, like, kind of coming back into the fray. I know he's got another, like, video game that he's going to be in the mix for, but I can't help but wonder if he didn't have this, would he have maybe tried to power through the Witcher stuff, or maybe work longer about trying to find the resolution? I don't know how long he did it for, but I can't help but wonder if he didn't have that, maybe he would have still tried for Geralt. So it's just, and now it's too late because you got Hemsworth in the mix. So I can't imagine they'd find a resolution where they bring Cavill back and then say, Hemsworth's going to go. So yeah, it's bizarre. It sucks how they handled it. I don't know who to blame for that, but they've just been a mess. And I just hope that Gunn, like, he has direction and he cares about this stuff big time, and he has a good feel for how to tell superhero stories. Just hope he gets it right. And it can't be worse than what we got before.
No. Oh God, no. And All-Star Superman, if that's the adaptation or some form of it's going to be the adaptation, that's great. Have you read All-Star Superman?
No, I haven't. You can actually.
Well, then I'll have to do it on the show, because it's okay. I've got a nice little Superman collection. I'm assuming you haven't read any or most of them. So I've already done Red Sun. All-Star Superman's a great one.
Red Sun's so good.
I got another Jeff Loeb one, Superman for All Seasons, which is excellent. So anyways, that's my thing about that. Like, I'm excited, but also a little peeved at the same time, because they just did our soups dirty.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. Because I also like, now I'm not as big a Superman guy. I'm definitely more of a Batman guy if you have to put those two against each other. But when it comes to this, like the Man of Steel, I also enjoyed that movie. Understand the issue with the ending, but I like that more than the average person too. But I also have lower expectations for Superman stories. I think it's harder story to tell today's day and age. But let's move on to catching up. I think we've gotten you especially got everything you needed to get out there. As for me, Gunslinger Spawn issue 16, Spawn Unwanted Violence issue 1. We didn't get the review copies for those last week, so made sure to catch up on those. One of my favorite covers, too, for Gunslinger Spawn. I got it right next to me. This is by Kevin Keene, friend of the show. Not yet to appear on the show, but still friend of the show. Love his style. And then Wolverine issue 29 as well.
Let's talk about that for a second, because I also caught up on that. This is impromptu. We didn't have these books underlined. But fuck, man.
Yep.
What an issue. Because I had no idea where Percy was going to take this in issue 28,
yes.
With Wolverine sort of being a prisoner, on Krakoa, and Beast, man, what a spit fuck he's become.
Yeah. So for those who maybe have been behind or last couple, maybe like you may have known if you've read it, even if you're a couple issues behind, I think you would know kind of what's going on with Beast. But for those who don't know, Beast is being a little bit of a bastard lately, and it's really, really interesting. I've never really looked at him through that lens, and it's like, oh no, it does make sense because he's so smart, could get impatient, all these kinds of things, and Krakoa is just falling apart at the seams, and so it totally makes sense. But now he's using Wolverine, which is a bold move. And yes, I agree. Like the prison and everything like that, and everything that's gone on in the prison in Krakoa prior to Wolverine getting there, all ties in well. Some seamless like storytelling across titles. I really do appreciate that. But I'm most good, all around good issue. But I'm most excited about him and Beast. Like what's up with those guys?
Oh next? Yeah, what's coming there is going to be wild. But this issue was just great. The I can't remember the artist because I don't believe it's the typical artist.
No, was it? It's RYP. I don't know who. Oh, it is Juan Jose Rip. RYP.
Okay, yeah, excellent. I mean, it was this issue in particular was excellent. Just there's some great panels there. No, I wouldn't necessarily call them like action scenes in the sense of like fighting, but like just some of the stuff that was going on, and then sort of the reveal of what Wolverine was dealing with there I thought was excellent. So Wolverine, if you haven't been reading it, catch up. You can get the first few trades. They're out there. It was an excellent issue. I caught up on Nita Hawes issue 11 as well, which was also excellent. And then again from Benjamin Percy, Ghost Rider 10, which again, you weren't kidding, man. There was some wild art in that.
Yeah.
And then X-Men 18.
A beast. Yeah. Oh yeah, X-Men 18. So you're going to 19? Because I know you've been.
Yeah, so I was thinking about this. I think my frustrations with X-Men really kind of had to do with I wasn't reading. I didn't read the event, and so like with the main title X-Men, that was the most scattered in terms of like issue to issue, in terms of like if you weren't reading all the other stuff, there was like it felt like there was chunks of things like missing, but it was easy enough to kind of follow. I think my biggest thing, especially since X-Men was relaunched several years ago, and this whole Krakoa thing it really isn't your traditional X-Men anymore. It's seeing Charles as sort of a villain. We're now starting to see Beast as sort of a villain. X-Men, they're more selfish. Not all of them, right? Cyclops is still right. We still have a faction, a core of X-Men that are still out there. That are the X-Men that are acting and behaving the way we know and love. I love what they've been doing lately with Wolverine X-23, right? With Laura's character. But like you've got Charles, you've got Beast, you've got more of these X-Men. They're acting more in their own self-interests, and it's always been an us versus them mentality because of the way that the humans act towards the mutants, and the mutants are always trying to make peace. They're not trying to make peace anymore with this current iteration of X-Men. So like coming to grips in terms with that, especially over this latest run, has been like, is this what I want for my X-Men? But it is pretty good storytelling. So
Yeah, and obviously we have there's a Mr. Sinister event that's coming up, written by Kieran Gillen. I got to make sure that I catch up on the Immortal X-Men because I'm a little bit behind on that one. And then on top of that, we're getting, I think, is it the Fall of X that's coming in the
I think so.
summer? It's something along those lines. So maybe you're reading X-Men, so maybe you're on top of it a little bit. You're definitely on top of it a little better than I am, but maybe that's something. I know it's been a while since we did an event thing, but this is kind of a big one if Krakoa is done. We'll discuss that later. That's a conversation for another day. Let's get to what's new, and please take us through Marvel, Joe.
All right, so we have another whopper of a week from Marvel.
Yeah.
We have Venom issue 15, Hulk issue 11, Immortal X-Men issue 10, Punisher issue 9, which we're both reading. I haven't had a chance to read yet, but I can't wait to dig in.
Yeah.
Strange issue 10, Deadpool issue 3, Dark Web X-Men issue 3, Star Wars Bounty Hunters issue 30, Deadly Neighborhood Spider-Man issue 4, Avengers Forever issue 13, Invincible Iron Man issue 2, Spider-Man The Lost Hunt issue 3, Alien number 5, Han Solo Chewbacca issue 9, Wasp number 1. I can see that one I might read because that might, I'm assuming it's probably going to lead into Quantumania. Namor Conquered Shores issue 4, Wakanda issue 4, Peter Parker, Miles Morales, Spider-Man Double Team issue 3, Avengers 2, Wonder Man and Beast issue 1. And that is all the books that are being printed from Marvel this week.
DC, which has one title that we both want to talk about. I think everybody can figure out what that is if you've been following the show long enough, or if you're just paying attention to all of comics right now. One of the most hyped up books of start the year, I should say, actually. But we got The Flash 791, Batman, Superman, World's Finest issue 11, One Bad Day, Bane issue 1. That's of course a Batman book. Batgirls issue 14, Lazarus Planet Assault on Krypton issue 1, Black Adam 7, The New Champion of Shazam issue 4, Batman Fortress issue 8, Stargirl The Lost Children issue 8, Monkey Prince issue 10, Titans United Blood Pact issue 5, Harley Quinn the Animated Series Legion of Bats issue 4, Fables 157, GCPD The Blue Wall issue 4, and then, Joe, what's the book that we both want to talk about today?
So it's a book we've been gearing up for a little while, and pretty much ever since Tom Taylor started writing it, because we knew he would be writing this issue is Nightwing 100, and I texted you. I mean this. So I typically, Billy has a counter for this on Pineapple Boys, when I say things, repetitively, my catchphrases, so to speak, but peek behind the curtain.
Yep.
When it comes to reading the books for the week, I try like Friday nights and Saturday nights. Those are the nights I try and catch up the books like I didn't read from that week that, like I didn't discuss on the show that I want to catch up on, or maybe some other books I haven't gotten to. Or those are nights where I'm sort of rereading books I want to talk about with the show. And then typically Monday night, Tuesday mornings is when I read the stuff that's new for this week. But I was so excited to read. I think I read this on Friday, and I texted you immediately. Have you read Nightwing yet? And Matt, so I mean, we cannot discuss enough how much we love Tom Taylor's run on this character. And you've been reading Nightwing much longer than I have. You through the good, through the bad, the ugly, right? And
through the Rick.
And 98% of what Tom Taylor has done here with Nightwing has been A++ stuff. We don't need to whatever the fucking event was, right? We just skipped that. Like we skipped Rick Grayson. And this issue in particular, I love where the story's been going. And I just love Taylor's handling of Nightwing. I've said it before. He's doing as good a job with Nightwing as Chip Zdarsky, my Chip, has done with Daredevil. And this issue in particular, we knew it was going to be a big one. We knew that it was going to, set up a lot of stuff. But what I wasn't expecting from this issue was the emotional nature of it. And we get a moment between, Dick and Bruce that dare I say might be the most human, the most what's the word I'm looking for? Like,
Raw,
well,
emotional.
raw, emotional, down to earth. This is like the most relatable that Bruce Wayne and Batman has ever been.
Mm.
Right, because when you look at Batman, when you read Batman, when you know the character as well as we do, and those who are watching and those who are listening know he is brooding. He is oftentimes selfish. There's a disconnect between him as a hero and him as a human, and we don't really get to see him as and the moment that those two share, it's the second time that Tom Taylor's gotten me to cry a little bit on this series, but there was something there. The way he handled it, the way he wrote it, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
And I wish and I hope that we get a little bit more of that from not necessarily Batman, but Bruce Wayne, going forward, because it's really nice to see that little bit of separation, because over the years it's just Bruce Wayne has become Batman. There is no alter ego,
Mm.
right? There is no it's in the same way like we see that with Superman, right? There is no Clark Kent or Superman. We just see, Mr. Goody Two Shoes, right?
Mm.
Um and so like these characters have become like a bit one note. That's not to say it's bad. They've just
Mm.
become a bit one note. So I thought it was really something to see that guard come down and for those two characters to share that moment. And when you read it, you'll know it. It was
Mhm.
fucking awesome.
Yeah, and like you, this is actually for me. This was the first time though where I teared up reading this. Like, and it's to me, it was very much as someone who's still not a father. It felt like a moment, like a father son moment. But I was on the more on the Dick Grayson side of it, and not that my old man is like as brooding as Bruce Wayne. I just but it's just like there's differences like from across generations and how you handle emotions and everything like that, especially among men. And I think now we're a little bit better about it than our fathers were. Not to throw my old man under the bus, but it's just like hearing some of this stuff that I'm hearing from Bruce and how Dick's receiving it. It's just um it just I felt like I've had some serious conversations with my father over the past few years, and it's just and how I feel about my relationship with him and everything like that, and it's just it struck a chord. And it's even now I'm feeling it as we're talking about it. It's very impactful, and then there's a lot of other stuff that goes on beyond what Joe and I are talking about right now.
Right.
But this is what's going to stick with most readers by and large.
Yeah,
Well,
and
actually, there's another major development in this too that we're not even remotely touching.
right. We don't want to spoil anything,
Yeah.
right? But you know what that moment was like though. It's like I don't know if this ever happened to you, Nick. I'm between the two of us, I might be a little bit more emotional. And I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but like maybe you're dating a girl, or it's that first time you sort of say I love you.
Uh,
And you don't like it's not a planned thing. It just sort of you just sort of blurt it out,
mm.
and then you see the oh shit look on their face, and then they must see the oh shit look on your face, and then like it was perfect. It was the way that Tom, he sort of built up to that, and then just over
That
that
is what it
several
is.
panels where that happens, between the
Mhm.
two of them, it was awesome. It was
Mhm.
it was really awesome. And
Mhm.
and that's just I mean that's just a small fraction of this issue. I mean, what the stuff leading into it in issue 99, what we get in issue 100, both from where Nightwing is going, and also where Heartless is going,
Mhm.
and the shit that it was excellent. It was just panel to panel, page to page. It was sheer perfection.
It's amazing what Tom Taylor has done with this title. Like I feel like there's been over the years we've gotten good Dick Grayson stuff. We've gotten some stuff that's been a little bit head scratching. But with this, with his run, and obviously Bruno Redondo's been the artist primarily on the series, and was for issue 100. It's amazing what this team has done where it's like they find ways to hit on certain beats of the character emotionally, and it's like they do it like they'll hit on similar beats, but it still feels different every single time, month to month. And there are other things that they hit on as well too. And I'm blown away by how they've been able to do that as a team so consistently, so well. And in a time too where I say like, hey, Superman, it's kind of tough to tell a good Superman story because he's, like you said, too goody two shoes. Like Dick Grayson, like he's about as good a dude as you're gonna get in comics. Yet this is some of the most compelling stuff that we've seen.
The difference between him and Superman, though, right? Superman's OP, right? We
Yes,
get that,
100%.
right? But he is as straight a shooter as there is.
Yep.
So isn't Dick Grayson, but Dick Grayson is relatable. He's
Yep.
human, right? He's just out there. He's just got his skills that he's learned from his parents and from Bruce over the years. And I think that's what makes him such a compelling character, is that he's not overpowered. He doesn't have any superpowers, but he's very relatable, and his actions are, they just always come from a great place. And so you've talked about Bruno Redondo's art, which is great. Now there were a bevy of covers, Nicholas.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. So there was a cover there that I had 1 and 1A, right, for my covers that I wanted. I wanted Dan Moore's cover, which unfortunately didn't have, but the other cover, and I was going to get both, mind you. But this one by Javi Fernandez.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can get that out of the glare.
There you go.
That is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Like just fantastic. This might get put in a frame up on the wall. I had this idea, right? So you can see behind me here, right over this corner, right? I got a Spawn cover up there, and behind me I got some others. So I was thinking of buying 4 cases. 1 for Something Is Killing the Children, issue 1.
Ooh.
1 for Once and Future, issue 1. Now, I didn't start reading Daredevil until, I didn't start buying Daredevil until, physical copies until issue 5. I had bought the digital copies because by the time I hopped on, those issues were already off the shelves for me. So I've got, issues 1 through 4 digitally, but issue 5 is one of my favorite covers anyways. That one, and then I might put this one on there, right? Those are the first 3 are the books that really got me back into comics. And then Nightwing has just been, my biggest surprise one of my bigger surprises of the past couple of years. So we'll hang those up in bag end over here somewhere.
Nice.
Yeah.
That is a nice touch. Bag end is looking really sweet right now too, as we see it in the background. Let's move over to Image. Why don't you take us through what we got coming out from them this week?
All right. So we have What's the Furthest Place from Here, issue 10. I Hate Fairyland, issue 3. Nightclub, issue 2. I'll get to that one in a second. Art Brute, issue 2. Hexware, issue 2. Dr. Backcracker's autobiography, Shirtless Bear Fighter 2, issue 6. Immortal Sergeant, issue 1. 3 Keys, issue 4. And then we have, before we get the book we want to talk to, we have a series of trades. Now, again, peek behind the curtain, counter issue 2. The review copies we get, these were all these series of trades were in that folder, but they weren't listed on League of Comic Geeks What's New This Week. Now, if I type them in above Snakes, right, for example, it will say Above Snakes Trade Paperback Volume 1, and then it has the date underneath it. Why the fuck couldn't you have?
Because the way they do it, I'm with you. The way they do it, you have to click, there's buttons you got to click.
Dumb.
To, get
yeah,
the trades.
dumb. Just put it all out there. Just put it all out there.
But we got 3 trades from that are worth talking about. We got Above Snakes, we got Public Domain Volume 1, and That Texas Blood Volume 3. Of course, we had Sean Lewis on to talk about Above Snakes. We had Chip Zdarsky on, and we did talk about Public Domain with him a little bit there the last time we had him on. I've read those 2 series. Above Snakes, if you're looking for a kick-ass Western, definitely something that you want to pick up. Public Domain, I think when you talk about comics that can bring people in, especially now in this era of all the comic book movies that we get, the superhero movies that we get, this is a way to get in, because this is not like your normal comic book, and it is very much a commentary on that from a guy who's now writing Batman, who has written or still writing Daredevil, and actually told us some stories about his time writing Daredevil while the show on Netflix was going on, which is an interesting one that has always kind of stuck with me. That's from our first Fireside Chat with Chip Zdarsky, if you want to go listen to that. And he's also the artist on this series too. So I think that is a very interesting experience for anybody who's trying to get in on indie comics, or someone who you're trying to introduce to comics maybe as an adult who's like, I don't want to just read superhero stuff. Well, it can be something different. There can be other commentaries. I would pick this one up for them. And of course, that Texas Blood, you harped on that recently.
Yeah, and Keith read it, and from the Dork podcast, and he agreed with me. Volume 3 was, all 3 volumes are excellent, but 3 was next level for this series. Absolutely fantastic. The book we want to discuss, real quick, is Old Dog issue 3 from Declan Shalvey, and man, I fucking love this series. Right. I fucking love it. It is different than, what I think majority of what we're reading here. Like the first issue was real trippy, right? And the second issue was a little bit more linear. This felt like it was just like a sort of like an anthology issue, in this sort of, we're only 3 issues in, obviously, but like this was sort of like a standalone story that was fucking badass. But at the same time, it gives us more insight into the character, into the world that's going on. I mean, he's drawing it, he's writing it, and I just love this grizzled old bastard, and the layers of the storytelling that we get here. This is a fucking fantastic series. If you haven't started reading it yet, this is going to be one you want to read.
I think if you read the first, I understand why Declan went with the first one. Of course, we had him on the show. If you want to get some more background on the series, go check that one out. That conversation was from late last year. Definitely, like I like the first issue and understand why he started there. It was because you're trying to like tell the way the story is going to be told, what happens to the character, what makes this this individual so special. But I would argue this could have been issue 1 as well, because as much as we don't know about the character's like odd thing that he has going on with him, this was very compelling from a standpoint of like what this character's like history, because that's something that was touched upon early, and then you kind of like he's kind of looked at as like, oh yeah, this is just some guy who's like worked behind a desk for years, because who knows, probably just because he's sucked in the field. And then it's like, no, we find out there is a serious thing that happened in his past, both from a career standpoint and then from like an emotional standpoint. And it's like, wait a minute, what the fuck? So he's elevated to a whole nother level for me after reading this issue.
Yeah, that was such a great reveal. And again, like we'd sort of talk about like, characters getting emotional and shit like that, and the relationship that he has with his daughter, and just the disdain she has for him. And it's like that sort of thing where the old man is trying to, rekindle. It's just like they're 2 rams butting heads. But that reveal, man, like this whole issue, it was much different from the first 2 issues, but so fucking good. And it even though it was a little bit different, it still fits perfectly. Just how he's sort of unraveling everything here as we go along. It's a great bit of storytelling.
I'll tell you, I think it was my favorite issue. Like 1 is like was a very unique experience for this story, because it's just, again, go read it if you haven't already, but it's very trippy. This one for me though, like just it takes the character no, he was good at his job. Like, yeah, he got into a certain spot, and we learned about that here. I don't want to spoil it, but it's just like there's a lot more to this guy than we ever knew. And it's not just like, it always seemed like we knew it was a second chance for him, but like it's more important than I necessarily knew early on. So, again, pick this one up, Old Dog issue 3. Skybound, of course, prints their stuff through Image, Robert Kirkman's imprint. Walking Dead Deluxe issue 5 and Chroma issue 3 hit shelves this week. From Boom, we have The Vampire Slayer issue 10, Eve, Children of the Moon issue 4, House of Slaughter issue 11, which of course you are reading that title. What, do you have something on that?
So, I've been bitching about this series. It's been like, this is kickstarting off to a much better arc than we've gotten yet so far.
Okay, nice.
This was a very, very, this was one of the more compelling bits of storytelling.
Good. That is a good change of pace. We also got Mighty Morphin Power Rangers issue 104. This is all about Rita Repulsa in this one. Really love what Melissa Flores did in this issue, and by and large, just really enjoying how she's handling this title. Of course, she's extremely familiar with the Power Rangers franchise, given her background working over there for so long. And I also wanted to touch on too. We could have touched on this off the rip too. We got a Power Ranger special coming out, like a 30-year anniversary thing on Netflix. We're not seeing Amy Jo Johnson in the promo stuff.
I'm out.
I'm very annoyed by that, but I gotta imagine that they're like trying to hide it. There's no way you're gonna go and do that and like not have her involved. But also, this is when did they start filming this too? Because there's obviously been a lot going on in the Power Ranger community, because obviously the untimely death of Jason David Frank. So I have no idea like what to expect other than the four Rangers. No one knows what to expect other than the four Rangers that we've heard about. But it is cool to see Zach back in the mix, because I don't think he's been around for a while. I don't know if Jason necessarily has either. Billy was around for a long time, but I'm gonna watch this. But I'm just like, why is there no Amy Jo Johnson? It's like she was.
It's going to be revealed. That's going to be the big pop. I think
she was in the Power Rangers movie that was like redone, like the reboot or whatever of the franchise a few years ago. Like she was in that, and Jason David Frank was in that. Like,
yeah.
So what are we talking about here? But anyways, there is one other book from Boom that you wanted to touch on.
Yeah. So this is Dune: House of Harkonnen issue 1. So I've talked about, I've read several Dune books, over the past couple of years. I've talked about Dune: House of Atreides, on the show before. So what I love about these Dune books is that they're great companion pieces to, whether you've read Dune or if you've just seen the movie, right? Brian Herbert, right, the writer, is the son, of the author who wrote Dune. And so this was a great first issue, right? It's very similar to how House of Atreides was written. I mean, obviously same writer there. So like again, I'll just keep it brief. If you're a fan of Dune, right? If you love a good sci-fi story, these Dune stories, whether they've been the one shots or they've been sort of these longer series, are great companion pieces. They sort of fill in some of these gaps. They give you some origin stories that you don't necessarily get when you read the main book for Dune, that you don't get when you watch the movie. So these characters that are already established, you get their origins, you get bigger pieces of the puzzle of this much larger world, the machinations of everything that's going on, because for those who have just seen the movie, where things start, like, there's been, things moving for decades, right? And so the chess game has been going on for a very long time. And this sort of helps show you some of those chess moves. So it shows you some of, how we get sort of to where things start in the Dune universe. So very well written, very well drawn, very compelling stories. If you're a fan of Dune, you're going to want to check these titles out, because they're, like I said, they're just great companion pieces.
Nice. I'm going to roll through these other ones real quick, Joe, for the sake of time. So we got Dark Horse, White Savior, issue 1, Resident Alien, The Book of Love, issue 3, IDW, TMNT 136, TMNT, The Armageddon Game, issue 4, Sonic the Hedgehog, Scrapnik Island, issue 4, Star Trek Resurgence, issue 3, Aftershock, they got stuff back out. It looks like There's Something Wrong with Patrick Todd, issue 4, Chicken Devils, issue 2, Maniac of New York, Don't Call It a Comeback, issue 1, Comixology, we got Barnstormers, issue 4, Retroverse, issue 2, Census, issue 5, and Edgeworld, issue 6. From Vault, we have Giga, issue 5, Nightfall, double feature, issue 2, and then we have Barbaric, Hell to Pay, issue 1. This is the start of the third arc of Barbaric. The first two had been 3-issue series, and we also had a one-shot mixed in there as well. And I've talked about this one on the show at length. This is must-read stuff. This is like I really enjoy it. And I knew coming into the start of the first arc, like I've been on it since it first started, but there was a lot of hype around this, and it has absolutely lived up to it. And the talking axe, was named axe appropriately, is absolutely the straw that stirs the drink. As much as Owen is cool, Soren is cool, I'm drawing a blank on the vampire friend Steel. He's been a nice addition to the mix. We also see some other characters who had popped up previously in Barbaric, but weren't necessarily at the center of things, of this important the central story. They are now in the mix, and they are very much going to be involved going forward. So I'm very excited to see these additions after getting some introductions quickly over the last. We've gotten those introductions of these new characters after the first arc. So very high on Barbaric. Can't say enough positive stuff about it, and definitely pick up those. I believe both of the trades are available now, but definitely get on top of those and give this one a look this week. Then Joe, we have AWA, which actually they have a trade coming out this week, and I think that's the title that you want to talk about.
Yeah. I was initially this week I was going to discuss West of Sundown, which I will save for our next mainline issue, because when I was looking ahead, AWA Absolution trade drops this week on New Comic Book Day, and so I read the first issue way back when, and have talked about it, saying, "Oh, I guess I got to catch up on it." I kind of fell behind, and so it's like, with the trade, let me see. My gut was telling me after that first issue, it's definitely a TLDR worthy book, but you got to read it because you never know, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I read the second issue. Oh yeah, I didn't even fucking bat an eyelash. I text you right away saying I'm doing Absolution this week. So
I'll tell you what, I fell behind on this one. Like I wanted to give this one a look, and I have all the stuff to read, and I just haven't done it yet for some reason. And then I think after a point, you read the second one and you really liked it, and then I was like, okay, just leave it alone so Joe can talk about it on the show. But I was like, this was one right away that was on my radar. I was like, yeah, I want to read this one.
Yeah. So Absolution from AWA Studios, written by Peter Milligan, who also wrote American Ronin, which I absolutely love. Artist on this is Mike Deodato. And yes, Jesus Christ, and Sacrament.
Yeah.
Fucking Christ, man.
Yeah, we got, what? I think we got to get Peter Milligan.
Yeah, I think so. We're going to have to talk to our good friend Axel, So artist Mike Deodato Jr., who does a lot of the art on a lot of these books. Colorist, again, Lee Luthridge, who does a lot of the colors. And he kills it. He kills it here. And then letterer Steve Wands. So synopsis. Nina Ryan was a hired killer who brought nothing but pain and suffering to the world. Now she has a month to prove that she can change, a month to make up for her crimes and find absolution, or the bombs that have been implanted in her head will explode, killing her instantly. As her journey of atonement is live streamed to a fickle public, Nina is about to discover the road to redemption might be splattered with blood, and boy, is it splattered with fucking blood. This book, Nicholas, is violent and it is spectacular. Yeah, it's fucking awesome. So, typically the standard case of AWA books, it's 5 issues long. So the trailer, as I mentioned, as you're listening to this, is out. If you're watching us live, drops tomorrow. But if you're listening, it is out in your local comic book shop. Fucking buy it. Yep. It's tremendous. So my elevator pitch for this would be Suicide Squad meets YouTube.
Okay.
Right, because we know how the Suicide Squad works. They got if they don't follow the fucking rules, kablooey.
Yep.
And so that's what this character, she doesn't. The synopsis says she's just got the bombs in her brain, but when you're reading the story, you find out they're not just in her brain. They're planted all over her body, around all her vital organs. So they're gonna make sure that you're not gonna survive if you don't achieve 100% absolution. So essentially, sort of as the synopsis sort of describes, there is that there is a chance for redemption. There is a chance that you've committed all these crimes. In normal circumstances, you'd be executed. But we're gonna make some entertainment out of it. We're gonna give you a second chance, but you have to earn it. And so you have a month to reach a score of 100% absolution, or you die. And if any point in time during that month, if your absolution score drops below 10%, you die. right? So there's a little speed in there as well. Bus can't go slower than 55 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And so what makes this unique, right, is that her road to redemption, right, is live streamed. So every action that she makes, people were watching. Essentially, like I said, Suicide Squad meets YouTube. It's being live streamed, and people can thumbs up, thumbs down, right? And you've got the chat that's going on. So it's like throughout the story, what I love about the way this book is written also, and I'll dive into a little bit more, is that like you're constantly seeing these different colored dialogue boxes, which are chat boxes. It's just highlighting like the chat. So I mean, when you think of people like YouTube commenters, Twitch commenters, whatever, like you're going to have people that love what they're seeing and they're going to be very positive. And then you're going to see the miserable fucks that are on there and the depraved fucks that are on there. And so like, and they highlight, you get the comments that are just sort of, coming from all over the place. And it adds, to, the joy of reading this book, because you're reading the narration from the main character, you're reading the dialogue, the story is advancing, but you're also getting like this commentary in there, which is great because it provides a little bit of levity, and you're like, what the fuck? And it's just like, I've experienced that, right? Like, and so yeah. So like your score goes up or goes down depending on her action. So what Nina has to do to reach this 100% absolution, to be absolved of her crimes, right, is like she's got to start her path is to take out more bad guys, right? So she's not just an assassin for hire now. She's like her path to redemption is to take out the worst of the worst. And what's great about it is like Peter Milligan's storytelling in this is one of the things I love in general about AWA is that they have a bevy of badass female characters, right? So you can add, Nina Ryan on that list of characters that they're just fucking awesome. And one of the things that Peter Milligan does really well, we saw it, we don't necessarily, Sacrament's a little bit different, right? The storytelling and the type of story he's telling there is different, but this and American Ronin are very similar in the fact that we're seeing a main character who is very smart, who is very, very, very good at what they do. And generally, they are 2 steps ahead of their opponents, right? They're sort of always playing from, they're playing ahead. But there are those rare occasions when the main character is playing from behind. And it's in the moments that we get like an American Ronin where you see it and it just sort of adds to the suspense of the story. With Absolution, there are those moments where, where she, sort of gets a step or two behind her opponent, but she's always sort of playing from behind the 8 ball in this, is because she's not just battling, crime bosses or scumbags that she's got to take out, but she's battling the fickle audience. And her Absolution score, right, is always sort of on the wrong side of 50%. And what she's trying to figure out is, how do I get that score? So she's got to really get creative with how she kills people. She's got to learn how to build that suspense, right? And that was just an aspect of the storytelling that I love, because it's like, each issue, each panel, page to page, you're like, what is she going to do that's going to help jack up that score? And then you'll see periods where it goes up high and then it dips again, right? And so it's like there's suspense on top of suspense in this book, which really, I think, makes it great. And then you add in the commentary from the people who are watching the live stream, but also you get like, it's sort of like, when you watch The Walking Dead in its prime and it had like the after show, right? Where they sort of right. So you had sort of like, we saw this in Not All Robots, right? Where you sort of had like, was it Not All Robot, where you had sort of like that Fox News style show where you had
Not All Robots,
right? Well, so you have sort of like this talk soup type panel on this that are commenting on her as she's going through like her various things, right? And so you've got people that are pro Nina, people who are, and like it was really good. So like again, we've seen this from AWA recently, where I think one of the things they do pretty well is social commentary, right? We saw it with Not All Robots. We saw it with New Think, right? There's a bit of satire there. There's social commentary. Some of it's a little bit more on the nose than I generally prefer. But like with this, like the social commentary is there, like that instant gratification, that gimme now, more. You know, you're gonna go online, you're going to, you know, you're gonna live your life through this world that's on your screen. And like the keyboard warriors that have all the power, right? The fat schlobby schmucks like myself, they're on there pounding away, the trolls and shit. Like they're the ones that are deciding these people's futures. So like, you know, this is a sci-fi story that takes place in the future, but it's very, very much based on sort of what, you know, is kind of going on now. And so like the social commentary in this is on the nose, but it isn't. And so it was just great. And so, you know, the storytelling is top notch. You know, we've talked time and time again about Mike Deodato's junior work, whether it's The Fourth Man, whether his stuff in the Resistance, you know, his cover stuff, like his stuff I've always enjoyed. It fits AWA style very well. This, I think, is his best work.
Wow.
The action sequences, the violence, you know, it's spot on. Lee Lorthrich's colors, like, again, fits the tone. You know, I think those two do a lot of work together. So I think they're very, you know, and so like the art style and the colors, you know, fits perfectly. And as I mentioned earlier with the commentary boxes, we don't talk about letterers all the time, but it was great. It was done really well here. And so there's not a lot of characters to talk about. Like Nina Ryan, she is the main character, and there are definitely some side characters. I can't really discuss them without, I don't want to give anything away. And there isn't really a main antagonist, because sort of each issue is focused on, you know, what she's trying to do to raise her absolution score. But there is sneaky, you know, some breadcrumbs of a main villain being woven in there that, you know, comes to the ultimate climax in the 5th issue. So, and that's the character that really sort of, you know, gives her you know, it's her biggest threat. So badass female characters, fantastic art, outstanding storytelling. I mean, this is an AWA classic. It's you know, up there, you know, you know, this and Sacrament really sort of came out at the same time. And Sacrament is the one that I sort of latched onto because of the horror element of it. But this is step for step, just as every bit as good.
The thing that, so first, actually, before I say give any takes from what you said, is there any characters that you look at, like, because Mike Deodato does this a lot, that's the actor that he was going for in this moment? Did you have a few of those?
There was two. One is slipping me, but the one that is one of the TV commentators, and he looks just like Woody Harrelson.
Really?
It's awesome. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, because he's and so his character is very kind of Woody Harrelson-esque, and just the type of, you know, so it was great. And so but his character design of Nina Ryan is fucking badass. Like, it's such a good book, man. Such a good book.
I'm excited to give this one a look again. I was interested in looking this over. Attaboy, nice stuff.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, good job.
Just Belichicked on. Oh, God damn it.
Yes.
I hit it and it didn't.
Oh man, yeah, you're muted.
Yeah.
Nope, now you're live. All right. But what was I? That's amazing.
Might as well just rip a fart next, right?
I'll tell you what. I changed my mind. Wes uploaded some stuff, so I actually do have access to some fart sounders now. But we're not gonna do that on this program. We're a classy joint. We talk about comics. But I did want to say, like, you bring up the whole lack of villain until later on, and get breadcrumbs and everything like that. To me, I know for you don't need to have like this villain, that straw that stirs the drink, but for you to say like there's not really this like one villain until the end, and you love this as much as you do, it says a lot about this title. Like, again, not that we both absolutely need that. If you have a compelling main character, that can really drive a title, but that's like still for that to be in the mix and you just like be that high on it says a lot about Absolution.
Well, you know, so don't get me wrong. Like, each issue has a very deplorable character,
but not just one, not just that one villain.
Right. Yeah, there isn't, right, until sort of like the very end. You go, oh, right.
Yep.
But like, yeah, that's what's great, because like, even though this is a linear story, point A to point B, each issue does sort of it does have sort of that anthology type feel to it. Like, there is that there's that thread that connects every single one, because she's trying to, right, but her target in each one to help raise her, to help get her to that 100% score, changes from issue to issue. And then the way this book ends, Nick.
So now, without getting into any spoilers about how this ends, okay? I mean, this is like when we talked about Above Stakes, right? Like we said, we like the world. Like, yeah, would be interested in hearing more about Dirt, yes, but really, I remember saying I'd rather see this world visited more in this, wherever Dirt is in the world. Let's spend some time with somebody else in this world that Hayden and Sean had created. Do you find, like, if you were told, okay, we're going to get like an Absolution Volume 2, but we're going to focus on someone else in this world, would you like to see something like that?
Well, yeah, but you have to. It's the only way to do it because of the premise of the story, right? Like, you've got 1 month, right, to reach the score or not, right? And I don't need, if the character reaches that score, I don't need to see them beyond that, because what makes this world, this idea, this premise entertaining is will they, won't they?
Right.
And then the journey, right? So this is something where you could have volume 2, volume 3, volume 4, volume 5, different characters, whether they're a character you want to root for or you want to root against. That's the other thing too. It's like you could watch, you could read this. They could, Peter Miller could come back and next volume write a character that you fucking hate and you don't want them to see get that score, but maybe they do. And he's like, oh, what the, right? And so it's all about, like, they very well could do that. And I'm not, and me saying that doesn't give this away, but just the inherent premise of this book is that there's a finite, binary.
Right.
Yes, no, you've got that much time to do it. And that's the fun. That's where the suspense comes in. That's, where you could go a couple of different ways with different types of characters in this world and still have it feel different, and not ever really get stale.
Well, everybody, go pick this one up at your local comic shop, so maybe we can get a crack at a second volume if it's not already in the works because of the successes from the single copy issues. Time to move on to my book, Joe. Unless you have anything else that you want to add.
No, this was
show or movie.
Well, movie,
okay.
Right? Again, because like I said, it's finite, right? So, like, you
unless they did an anthology, 1 season for each.
True. But 1 month time, it's hard to, I think, to me, like, to suspend belief and stretch a 1 month. You could do it over 8 episodes, 8 episodes, whatever. But, like, for me, give me a 2 hour, give me a tight 2 hour movie.
Okay, nice. That definitely makes more sense than trying to do a show. Okay, nice. All right. So I am talking about another title that was a one arc, limited series, Nemesis, from Mark Millar, Steve McNevin, David McCaig as the colorist, and then the letterer was Chris Eliopoulos. Now, of course, if you go and check on our Twitter at TLDR_pod, you'll see that we said, this is from Image, which the second volume is, which is out now. The first issue of that is out now. Nemesis Reloaded. Jorge Jimenez is the artist on this volume of the series. But this is not originally an Image title, as much as the trade of Nemesis, the first volume, is available through Image. This was actually produced by Icon originally. For those wondering what the hell is Icon, this was actually Marvel's creator-owned branch from years ago. This does not exist anymore. Because it's creator owned,
God forbid they give their creators more money,
right? So it's because it's creator owned. Millar is able to go and take it elsewhere, and that is what's happening. This was this one that I'm talking about today is a 4-issue series, the Nemesis Reloaded, which just began last week. I'm not going to touch on that one at all today. That is a 5-issue sequel to the series. As for the synopsis, Civil War, nothing. Kick-Ass, a warm-up. What if the smartest, toughest, costume badass in the world was totally evil? Meet Nemesis. He's systematically been destroying the lives of every police chief in Asia, and he's now set his sights on Washington, D.C. Between you and me, the police don't have a chance. And then that's pretty much that says a lot of what you need to know about this title. And I would think that everybody's going to be like, would be sucked in on that. To me, coming out of it, it's like Batman if he was a bad guy. And I think people can kind of imagine just how bad that would get. And the reason it's too, I know I said I wasn't going to touch too much on Nemesis Reloaded, but Millar did do an interview for this, and I saw that he said like this is one of the books that he gets asked about most. He has like Civil War and obviously Kick Ass, Old Man Logan, like the original Old Man Logan run. That's all his stuff. And obviously, I've talked about other titles on here. Superman Red Sun is the one that Joe's talked about on here. And I guess he's been asked about this one a lot over the years, which is why he's wanted to revisit it. And I'll tell you what, I'm glad he did. This shit reads like that, man. It is so fast. We talk about violence too. Like, this is pretty, like, you know what? The violence in the first few pages, because there's like, someone gets killed in a vicious way, and then he's not the only person that gets killed in the course of the first issue. It reminds me of like the best comparison for people now who only watch shows, Invincible. Like some of the violence that you see in there, where some people get like the absolute tar kicked out of them, like this. Like that Green Lantern type character who gets like who gets like all her muscles, like she like was it Omni-Man like holding her up against like a big like water attack, and she's like flapping in the wind. Like it gives me like these kind of vibes with how vicious the violence is throughout this. And I think that's so important for this series. Like, look, Millar, I like his stuff. He's the person I've talked about most on this show. McNevin, not someone whose work I've seen quite as much, or at least knowingly, but his work is so important for this book, like any other comic is, but for this one specifically, because you're dealing with, okay, if Batman was a bad guy, he's going to be worse than the Joker. And the Joker, I mean, he's as bad as it gets. So now, and obviously we've seen the Batman Who Laughs, who's kind of a mix of the Joker and Batman over from DC. Obviously, friend of the show, Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo created that character. But for this is just Batman. And his calculations are, it all falls into place as perfectly as you would expect. So the guy who's at the center of this one now, because again, Nemesis is targeting cops throughout all this, not just cops, but the absolute best cops that the world has seen. And he doesn't just kill them, he dismantles their lives. And it is, again, with like the first issue, because it's 4 issues, I don't want to get too much into some of the details, but like the magnitude of how impactful this character can be, how this villain can be, is like, it's pretty nuts. Like he goes, what's funny? Actually, the people that he goes after in the first issue to then focus on this chief of police in Washington, D.C., it's almost, he's like reverse engineering it. Like he's going up way high and taking out these like really tough people. And then now he's going to go and punch down, I guess, in a way, at this Chief Morrow. And it's kind of nuts, but it's just the way the story they develop around this character. And then again, like the stuff that happens by the end of it all, like it's some fucked up shit. Like, and it's not necessarily stuff that you have to see. It's just like what happens to characters who are around Chief Morrow. And again, how I said how like systematic and how calculated Nemesis is. The way Morrow finds out about that he's the Nemesis's new target, there is a business card that is delivered to him that reads in white background, black text, Blake Morrow, space, or enter, March 12th, enter, flatline still counts. And Morrow is kind of just like, okay, whatever, because he's, Morrow too, when we talk about Deodato, where he's got like likenesses to characters, the one character who seems to have like a likeness, at least in my opinion, this could be just the Lord of the Rings nerd in me, but Morrow kind of reminds me of like a more aged Viggo Mortensen. That's kind of funny. So I did appreciate that, but again, it should be like the Lord of the Rings nerd in me. But I think this is Millar at his best. He knows the buttons to push. He knows how to get you to just say, what the fuck is going on here? So goddamn vicious. And I mean, of course, again, I'm a big Millar fan, but this is, I'm very excited for Jorge Jimenez to be in the mix too, especially as someone who draws Batman, and this is basically, bad Batman. But the way that everything gets tied together and just how much of an asshole this character is. I mean, a calculated asshole. It's I love all the Millar stuff that I talk about on here, but man, this is some kick-ass shit.
This sounds like this sounds like it'd be an awesome show.
Yeah, I think, yeah, you know what? Please, like, there's so much good Millar stuff in it. He has the Netflix contract, and I just don't know, like, what, like, we've got Jupiter's Legacy and Kick-Ass is on there, and I mean, what else? Like, give us some of the other titles that I've talked about on here, please. Oh, God.
I
mean, The Red Sun was a great animated show too, animated movie.
Yeah, I mean, Netflix paid enough for it. You might as well just start putting it all out, right?
Yep.
Yeah, dude, man, make this animated. Say so,
Yeah, that would be.
So you have to make wigs,
Yeah, this would be good as animated. Reborn could probably good as animated, but you could probably do that. You know what? Did you watch the Witcher Blood Origins?
I have not. I have not heard great things about that.
It had like a start where I saw people like, what, this sucks, whatever, and I was like not crazy behind, but a little behind on it, and then I went to watch it, and I was like, okay, what are people talking about? I said as much on Changed My Mind, and then I got to the end, and I was like, all right, I see what everybody was talking about. It's just like the money, just like the budget. Like there were bones that were good there, and the bones were their money too in this case. But it was really like the budgetary stuff. It's just like you can't do these kind of things in 2023. I'm sorry, or 2022 when it came out. Whatever, it's disappointing. But anyways, so you got plenty of Millar stuff. Let's do some animated shit. Let's get weird with it. Why not? But yeah, that's it for Nemesis.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Again, that sounds, and it would be. It's too bad Amazon didn't get a hold of Millar's stuff instead of Netflix, right? Because of the job they did with Kirkham's, with Invincible, right? We know,
and the boys,
and the boys, right? So we know they could do live action stuff and animated stuff, right? So imagine them getting a hold of Mark Millar stuff and giving us an animated version of this, giving us an awesome sci-fi live action version of Reborn. Thank you. Right, like. There's some great stuff there, like Netflix. Netflix. I feel like Amazon's a bit more consistent. Netflix is really hit or miss. Like Witcher fucking kills it, but then they overextend themselves, or they try to do too much, and it suffers. And right.
Yeah,
HBO and Amazon. Those are the two properties that, or the two studios, I should say, that I want making these adaptations, because they've got the money, they've got the time, they've got the talent. Right, we've seen that time and time again.
So, and then for those wondering what Millar books I've talked about, so now there's this one. The Magic Order was so freaking good. The third volume of that is wrapping up, and the fourth one's coming out this year too. King of Spies was, I mean, the first issue of King of Spies was as good a first issue as like I've ever read, and that came out early last year. And like if we'd stop, like if we did like quarterly books of the month, or books of the quarter, whatever, like that probably would have been the first quarter one for me. Reborn, which we just mentioned, Greg Capullo was the artist on that series, and then Jupiter's Legacy, which I know the show, I get it, like, but the book was way better than the show. They, I don't know if you could have done that as animated. Maybe it would have helped out. But just actually it would have helped out, because it was the same freaking issues that you ran into with Witcher Blood Origins. Like the visuals on that were just like, who the hell said this was a good idea? Who okayed this shit?
Yeah. We've had issue lately with people not having a critical enough eye and letting things pass and then get put out for public display.
I don't get it. And then of course Joe has talked about Superman Red Sun on here. But yeah, so that is it for us for this week, Joe. We may have another mainline episode next week. It's been a while since we've done back to back, but I don't know.
Yeah. So possibly west of sundown. We'll see. Maybe I'll change my mind last minute, as I am wont to do.
That's not. We don't do that on this podcast. That's not. You're getting them mixed up. Come on, dude. Wake up. Although I guess you could say you've heard it both ways, but who knows? Yeah. Anyways, until next week, stay sexy.
You know it, baby.